What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Thursday edition of House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. He's got the Hall of Helmets. I've got the Wall of Gold. Do us a solid. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Get notifications. Boom, boom, boom. Knock them all out. And then when we ask in the future, you won't have to feel guilty for constantly ignoring me. Guys, we're going to start. We got all of the stuff, right? We're going to get to Portal Combat in just a second. Chad, I mentioned to you earlier, I think we actually need to start the show off today talking a little Texas basketball because Texas lost to Central Florida last night really has Texas fans on tilt. Mm-hmm. I don't blame them. This is a season that is floundering as we talk. They're not in to the NCAA tournament if it ended yesterday or today. Last night's loss only complicates that conversation. Their hopes are fading or sinking or whatever word you want to use. And there's a lot of regret out on these streets right now with regards to the hire of Rodney Terry, whether or not Texas should have just went and hired the best guy when the job was open instead of kind of giving way to the emotions of the moment when they made it to the Elite Eight. Did you watch any of that last night?
I did. In fact, I hit record as I went upstairs to deal with do the Outsider show. And as we're getting ready, Blake, the super producer, tells me Texas lost. And I'm like, what do you mean Texas lost? They were up 13 or whatever it was when I hit record. And I was just going to cruise back through the end of it and see how it finished. But then I was really glad I did. So, yes, I ended up watching very closely like the last, 13 to 15 minutes of that game. It was unreal.
Outscored 37-16 in the final 14 minutes of the game. And it really felt that way. It felt like one team wanted that game more than the other. They came down with all the loose balls. They killed Texas in rebounding. They were aggressive and had one shot at the rim after another shot at the rim where it really felt like Texas was settling for a lot of three-point shots last night. And at the end of the day, this isn't really about losing to Central Florida, although Rodney's got to stop with this whole, hey, they were doing the hook 'em upside down thing, Rodney. You've been around this thing for a long time. And I don't want to lecture to Texas fans on this either, but it's part of the deal. It's part of the deal. You are never going to be the head coach at Texas and not run into players on the opposing team or fans, or even sometimes coaches, like they're going to do it. And you've got to be bigger than that. And you can't blow a game at home to a directional school from Florida and then get upset when they're celebrating on your court. Like that's the deal. That coupled with the fact that the team's just not very good right now, Chad, has Texas fans with some real buyer's remorse. And I don't quite know what to even tell Texas fans right now because they're not going to get rid of Rodney Terry after a season. He's going to get multiple years, and I don't really know what to tell them in terms of what that means, what their expectations should be, but it's not great right now. It is, like I said, it's a season that's been turned on its head, and the thing is they're 1-3 in conference play. They haven't played any of the tough teams yet.
No. The next two games are host Baylor at OU.
Now the grind comes. And it's, the Big 12 is one of the best two leagues in college basketball this year. It is not because of anything that Texas is doing, which means you got to win your home games, especially the home games against teams at the bottom of the conference. The Longhorns now have lost 2 of those. There's not a lot of positivity today on the Texas basketball front. They've got a couple of really good players that are a lot of fun to watch. But as a team, It's a big step down from where they were a year ago. And college, well, it's not even college fans. Sport fans are not patient. We want gratification right away. You and I will talk about the Dallas Cowboys in a little bit, but we want there to be prices to be paid for failure. I think Texas fans are there right now, and there's a part of me that thinks they've got to chill out a little bit, that they're treating the Rodney Terry experience like a sprint, and it's at least a mini marathon, that he's not going to get judged in a season. I question whether or not he would even, if he had 2 bad years in a row, would that be enough? It's year one, and typically guys get a few years. Even Charlie Strong got 3.
Yeah, that's true. Let me, I was grabbing a few chats here, the ones that jumped out to me, get some fan reaction here from Chad. Losing to UCF at home shouldn't happen, but don't act like that team is a bunch of scrubs, as it defeated Kansas. That did happen. Chad, you are correct. Someone says, I think you're wrong, Catch. They will fire RT sooner. Can't have him leading us into the SEC. Well, that's next season. So Tim is saying, Catch, that if this continues, that Texas would fire him after 1 complete season as the head coach because they don't want that going to the SEC? I don't know.
The thing is, recruiting's not terrible. They signed 2 national top 50 guys signed in November. They've got another national top 50 guy who's signed or is committed but hasn't signed. One of them is a 5-star. One of them is the number 4 player in the country. So, the recruiting is okay. I'm going to have some stuff in the Orange Bloods War Room tonight about recruiting. But, I talked to one of the main national recruiting guys over at Rivals. He's like, from a recruiting standpoint, like Texas is doing better than 95% of America. So it's not necessarily that. Basketball's so tricky at Texas because it's traditionally not even the number 2 sport. That's baseball. That's the sport. If you were to ask Texas fans outside of football, would they sell pieces of their soul to the devil for a national championship? It's in hardball more so than it is in round ball. But traditionally, college basketball is the number 2 sport behind football. And it's a strange look. Texas fans have seen one Sweet 16 in the last 14 years, really going back to the heyday of Rick Barnes. So I don't quite. It is one of it's one of the biggest pieces of disconnect from reality that I think Texas fans have, is that the basketball program is regarded as pretty good, very good. It's got a very nice national profile, but there haven't been results backing that reputation until last year, which is one of the reasons why Rodney Terry gets the credit and the job that he did. It was a historically good postseason for the Longhorns. They did win the Big 12 tournament championship. There's a lot there. This was always the concern. And, I find myself really struggling for the right I'm not quite, look at me as I stumble through this. I have my finger on the pulse of the way that Texas fans feel. I don't know what to tell them, though. I like to think of myself as one of the great sermon people, right? It's like, here it is, and this is what you got to do, and you got to buckle down. And I don't think Texas fans want to do that right now. And I understand why. If you watched the game last night, the final 14 and a half minutes of that game, from the moment Texas went up 55-40, it was kind of a disaster. And they end up losing a game that they went up 15-2 to start it. So the crazy thing is, if you take the first 4.5 minutes out of the equation where Texas goes up 15-2, you take that out of the equation, then for the rest of the night, they just weren't very good. And slowly but surely, Central Florida comes from behind. And then in the end, they kind of win going away. The final minute of that game, really wasn't terribly interesting. Central Florida had that leverage and they never gave it away and put Texas in a position where they were suddenly within 3 points and a chance to tie the game. So I don't know. We can move on, but Chad, I think we're 4 games into Big 12 play. It should be too early to say, oh, hell, we're punting on the season. But there is a little bit of that vibe in Austin today with regards to the men's basketball program.
No doubt. Couple of quick chats on the way out of this discussion. Going to get hosed by Kansas, TCU, Baylor, and probably more, says Blake. Our man Chris Bennett says no leadership on the team. And SEQ says Max shoots way too much. I don't know, South End Zone Queen. They might just tell you Max doesn't make enough. They're going to shoot. That team's going to shoot threes. I've been telling Texas fans that for years. Problem is, Catch, when you shoot that many threes and you allow that many layups and you don't rebound the ball, that's a tough way to do business if you miss those threes. But they're going to take them. This is college basketball in 2024. The answer is never going to be take less threes. They're just going to take them. Worst thing that happened to them, Catch, 5 of 10 in the first half. You know what that gives them license to do, don't you? Take 16 more in the second half because that's who they are.
Well, I don't think that that's even a bad way to go about playing basketball, right? I mean, we live in a analytical basketball world that says the only good shots are shots at the rim and three-pointers, that anything in between those things, it can be argued as a bad shot. We see that the mid-range jumper is kind of a thing of the dinosaur, that when we see it, we say, instead of saying that guy's really good, we say that guy would have been great in a different era. Like there's still a little bit of a stigma that is attached to all of it. And, you know, I watched this Texas basketball team play, and the problem that they have is they can't get their good players playing good basketball at the same time with any kind of regularity. Last night, Dylan Dessou starts off red hot. 7 points in the first 4.5 minutes of the game. I don't think he scored the rest of the night.
I know that he didn't. He finished with 8 shots and 7 points.
You look at Max Asmus, he ends up, 4 of 11 from the three-point range isn't awful. I mean, that's a little bit under 40%. So when you look at him, I often find, the other night in a loss, he had like 17 points in the last 2.5 minutes. Whenever he's hot, Dylan Mitchell's not hot or Dylan Dessou's not hot. And Tyrese Hunter has been in a funk for a few weeks now, and he only scored 7 points last night. So they don't have enough good players that when 1 or 2 aren't on, that they can survive that against pretty decent teams or better.
Yeah.
The only way this thing works out is if really it comes down to Mitchell, Dessou, Hunter, Asmus. And I know IT Horton last night scored 20. You're not really counting on that from night to night. The 3 guys from last season and Asmus come in every night, and they all have to play well together, or Texas is going to get, what was it? Hosed. Usually, I think of that as like screwed, like you get hosed. Yeah. Somebody like you got cheated out of something. I don't think how he meant hosed.
One thing I would agree with Sandman on. I agree with Sandman on this. They are sometimes really difficult to watch when they are playing like that. And Catch, every year when you do the Santa Catch stuff, you try to give fan bases something that they need or teams something that they need. Man, I wish I could give a Texas basketball fan an offense that they could like. I don't remember the last time they had one. I don't. I mean, I could be a smartass and say Penders, but man, it's been a while since a Texas fan could watch a basketball game and know what the plan was on offense, other than let's just see if we fall into a hot streak. Like that feels like it's been the offense for 20 years now. And I don't know what to tell them, but I really don't know what to tell them if the Beard and Barnes defense isn't going to be there. Catch, they look like the mid-2000s Mavericks trying to guard last night. And I know what that looks like when Nash and Dirk were just letting everybody go by because they knew they were going to score 128 on the other end. That's what they looked like. The defense was horrific over that last 10 minutes.
All right, so we've already talked about the Longhorn basketball team more than it warrants.
Too much.
If they were good, we would have said 15 minutes is too much.
That's
when they're
fair.
bad, blah.
Okay, we'll reset.
Let's do this. I'm sorry, we're talking over each other.
Hit it.
Well, I was just going to transfer over into the portal combat.
Round 1, fight! Get over here! Finish him!
I would never try to stop the intro, but before we hit Portal Combat, D-line coach, any updates? Because I know Texas fans want to know.
Chad, you're right. It's just looking more and more like Rod Wright of the Houston Texans coming home. It's just starting to make a lot of sense. I haven't had anybody just straight up tell me it's definitely going to be Rod Wright, but it's becoming clear that this feels like it's going to be an NFL hire. I mean, there aren't even whispers right now about anybody else. Not interviewing. There's stuff all over the country, and it's just it's feeling very much like the Chris Jackson hire from a year ago. I think it's going to be Rod Wright. If I was a betting man, I think right now I would put money on Rod Wright. That doesn't mean that it's definitely Rod Wright, but this thing's just going at a pace where we've now hit there's not a lot of urgency phase of all this, whereas a week ago it felt like there was some urgency. I mean, this is 8 days ago is when the Bo Davis thing happened, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. If the Texans keep winning, are they just cool and they're just going to wait this thing out? There's not a lot new other than to confess about that there's a certain amount of speculation that exists, and I think it does make a lot of sense.
So we'll keep an eye out for that. That obviously would be the next coaching situation for Texas. In terms of portal stuff, Catch, obviously yesterday was big in terms of a couple of gets with Silas Bolden and Kendrick Blackshire. We talked about that. Bama, I think, is up to, is it 24, 25, 20, 360 into the, I'm not sure, 25-ish, somewhere in there. Another one of those Bama names that we talked about a little bit is Amari Niblack, the tight end. He is also into the portal and will head somewhere. The young man is from Florida, like a lot of talented football players are. What are you hearing on Niblack? Do you think Texas has a serious interest?
Well, yeah, because they're going to bring him in for a visit. And I was told last night that of the tight ends in the portal, he's preferred to the Stanford tight end. Wasn't really given any reasons why with regards to what's going on with the Stanford tight end. But they like Niblack. He is the highest rated tight end in the portal, period. You take all of the tight ends that have been in the portal so far in the last month plus, going back to when the portal first opened in December, he's the highest rated of the group. I mentioned to you last night that Jake Johnson, the former Aggie, was the number 2 tight end in the portal. If we're talking about positions where it's maybe hard to find transformative talent, the tight end position is one of those. They're hard to find in general. So the idea that they're hard to find in general but easy to find in the portal, kind of, you have to suspend reality to think, can't find them in recruiting, but there's a big old store in the portal and they're everywhere. He's as good as it's been in the portal. He's athletic. He had a pretty damn good sophomore season at Alabama a year ago. Had a good game against Texas. I think that he is a guy that Texas will try to close on. I think that him and Jabbar Muhammad make for two of the easy guys to see that those are pieces that they want to add. And now we wait to see kind of how they unfold. But I had been told on Sunday that there were some issues, multiple issues with Niblack that would likely make him a guy that Texas wasn't going to go after. And yet here we are on Thursday, and one of the conversations I had two interesting conversations with different sources last night. One of them was like, Sark thinks this team's got a chance to win a national championship. So now, he's not going to let any advantage that he might be able to find in the portal go because he thinks they're so close. And the things that may put them over the top versus not being able to get there, they're not taking any chances. Talked to another source confirming the Nyblack situation, and he was like, Sark's going for it. And consequently, I think the university is behind him. I think in the weekend, there were some frustrations that, by God, they think they're this close to winning a championship. Going into the SEC, they think they can win the SEC. They think they're this close. They think they need a couple of more pieces. I know there was some frustration that maybe going back into December, there were a handful of players that Texas wanted that they weren't able to get for a variety of reasons, but some of them academic. I think there was some fear as recent as like 5 days ago that would continue. And I think one of the things that we're seeing right now this week is that the roadblocks are being moved. The highways are being opened up, and it looks like Sark is getting all of the support that he needs to be able to bring in the guys from the portal that he wants to. So where maybe they missed on a few guys in December, it doesn't look like those forces are going to stop them in January. And maybe that's a very big time college football program thing to do that, one way or the other, guys are getting in.
Catch, here's another name we've talked about. Sandman interested in Muhammad, and did he enjoy his visit yesterday? Jabbar Muhammad, the cornerback that is leaving Washington, did visit. Is it yesterday or today or both?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I think arrives some point yesterday, but he's definitely on campus today. The question will be, does he go to a visit to Alabama on Friday? So this is kind of a big next 24-hour window. We always talking about it with guys in the portal that sometimes after their first visit, they don't make a second. It wouldn't be impossible to see him go take another visit and then make a decision and then it be Texas. But I have to believe that Texas would like to have this thing wrapped up and him not take a visit to either Alabama or Oregon. The Oregon visit still looming as a possibility. But this is a guy that wants to try to get a decision made as quickly as possible. And Texas will have every opportunity, I think, in the next 24 hours to try to convince him that he doesn't need to look anywhere else.
Let me get another chat in here, and then I had a question for you on Muhammad, or a comment and a question. Garrett says, odds of Muhammad and or Caleb Downs committing to Texas.
I can handicap. I don't know with Jabbar Muhammad how to put a percentage on that. I just don't. It is a unique situation. His old coaches at Alabama and then Oregon, and they just looked like leaders days ago. The thing about Jabbar Muhammad's recruitment is that it's felt like this is the last 24 hours feel like the first time in a week that it didn't change daily what we were thinking was going to happen with Muhammad. So I don't know how to handicap that. Caleb Downs is expected to go to Georgia. Yeah. Will he take a couple of visits and maybe look around? Maybe, but I've not seen Texas. I've not seen that word come out of his mouth. I've seen multiple national people speak with his father and get updates on kind of the general tone of things. Texas not mentioned in any of that. So I think the focus is on Jabbar Muhammad. I think if they get Jabbar Muhammad, they will be done in the secondary.
Gotcha. And correct me if I'm wrong. Caleb Downs is a Georgia guy, right? Like in terms of high school? Yeah, went to high school in Georgia. Gotcha.
And the thing is, I mentioned this months ago, and it didn't completely play out like this. But I did have somebody tell me months ago that, and it's just something I think we all should remember. It won't be like the golden rule, but I do think occasionally it's something to keep in mind, which is Texas doesn't like to recruit against Georgia. That, I don't know, maybe they see a little bit too much of themselves in the Dogs, but the Dogs play to win. Sometimes it is from as much as Texas has an NIL advantage over most of the schools that it recruits against, Georgia's not one of them. So I think Texas tries to stay away from Georgia. And look, in this situation with Jabbar Muhammad, you've got a guy that's an all Pac-12 player, a guy that you've seen up close, kind of kick your ass a couple of weeks ago. It's much easier to focus on him than to try to go potentially just waste your time in going after Caleb Downs. The word on the street is that Georgia's the team to beat. And in situations where Georgia is the team to beat, I don't typically expect that Texas is going to try to out Georgia.
Yeah. By the way, an interesting little nugget here from Colby says, I saw on Kyle's show, Kyle Henderson, Bama football on YouTube, that Downs family hates Georgia. All right, there you go. Keep an eye on it. Thank you, Kofi, for that one. And again, he did go to high school in Georgia, but that doesn't mean, obviously, that the family might necessarily be Dogs fans. But keep an eye on that. Catch, as far as Jabbar Muhammad goes, I was reading an article today about.
Quick, Chad.
Yeah.
I had somebody a little bit more than a week ago was claiming that Isaiah Bond was in classes at Alabama telling people in class who had been hearing the Texas rumors, Texas sucks. Texas isn't Southern enough. And they were like, I got a message, and Jason did too. And it was like, guys, I hate to tell you this, but like, the word we're hearing is that Isaiah Bond hates Texas. And I was like, interesting. Sit tight with that and check back in with me in like 48 hours. 48 hours, Isaiah Bond is a Longhorn, and that guy ends up sending Jason and I a message back going, I guess that was bad information. I was like, well, no. You just have to know that like things like so-and-so hates another place. Careful. Things change.
That's fair. Another interesting chat here. Things people are hearing. I heard Downs is expected to go to Ohio State.
Ohio State's obviously another team to watch. Like his recruitment, I think the real question isn't where Downs is going to go. It's where Texas is involved with Caleb Downs. And I just don't think they're going to be. I think that they picked up Andrew Makuba at safety. They've got Derek Williams. I think they feel good about those two guys. They want a corner right now. They're focused on Jabbar Muhammad. And I think once they get him, their focus in the portal will absolutely change.
In terms of Muhammad, what I was going to say earlier is we talked about, I think it was on the Outsiders last night. Maybe it was a little bit of the recruiting show, but the idea of the two homes he's trying to choose between, I'd let him go to Eugene all he wants. Whatever is in Eugene is one thing. But there's the home of Texas and the family. But then I just don't know if I let him get to Tuscaloosa. Back to Kalen DeBoer. I'm reading an article today about the guys that have stayed and the story that they're telling not only themselves, but the media and theoretically what they would tell guys in the portal. Kalen DeBoer is doing a good job on one level of at least trying to reassure these guys. They're starting to buy in. And we know Muhammad will buy into him. He already did it in Seattle. So this is a guy he's familiar with. Muhammad's trying to figure it all out. And Kalen DeBoer just needs to calm him down to the point of, hey, man, you know me, you know what we do, and you know what I can do for you. We're just going to do it on a different level. So if I'm Texas, that's an extra important guy to me. If you really want Jabbar Muhammad, I think it's one of those classic, almost, we talked about it with Portal. You want that early visit, and then there was that old thing in recruiting of don't let him get on campus. I would not let that guy get to Tuscaloosa just for the sake of what Kalen DeBoer might mean to him. I would try to lock it down before he gets there.
If at all possible, like definitely try to secure that commitment. You want that guy leaving town like Silas Bolden, where it's like, hey, you're going to take your visits? I don't know. I need to think about it for a second. And then 5 minutes later, he commits to Texas. I think Jabbar Muhammad has more leverage than Silas Bolden did, where there might have been an expiration date on how much time. I don't know that Texas was going to wait on Silas Bolden, at least not wait much. I think with Jabbar Muhammad, if he says, I want to take a visit to Alabama, I want to take a visit to Oregon, I think they probably would, and, they'll deal with it. But I think they would do so knowing we may have missed our opportunity. If you come at the king, you best not miss. Yeah. And sometimes in recruiting in the portal, seeing a guy leave town and continuing to take visits may mean that you missed. Like, I'm guessing Ole Miss knew when Kendrick Blackshire was on campus last week, they had a chance. And they probably felt like that chance took a big hit when he did take the Texas visit the next day. It always seems like that next visit is one that you'd want to worry about. And I know Alabama's taken some hits. I know they have.
Oh, my God.
But if you think that players like Jabbar Muhammad are going to lift their noses up at freaking Bama, it's not quite like that, guys. I know they're having a bad month, but it's still Alabama. And, you'd hate to find out the hard way by seeing Jabbar Muhammad take a visit, get there. If you were to ask me, do I think he takes the visit? I don't know. Yeah. I think so, maybe. He seems like he wants to at least take those 2 visits. All we can do is project onto his recruitment what we've seen historically from the portal in the last couple of years. It's hard though. It's hard to put a finger on this one. And his situation is really unique that Kalen DeBoer is at Alabama and there is a history of success. Now, the good news is he was only there for a little bit. So it wasn't like Kalen DeBoer brought him in as a high school prospect and developed him, made him the guy that he is. This is the second time in the portal for Jabbar Muhammad. After having been at Oklahoma State, he went to Washington for a season, had a really big year. I think Jabbar Muhammad is just Jabbar Muhammad, if he were to go to the pros right now, is probably a top 100 NFL draft pick. He's probably a late day 2 guy. So what's a late day 2 guy thinking about when he goes into the portal? How do I get to day 1? It's the only reason why he's coming back.
Right.
The only reason why he's coming back is he wants to elevate his draft stock. That is the only thing he cares about. And if Texas is able to convince him that this is the place to do that, then he'll probably commit to Texas. If he goes through this visit and goes, I don't know, man, they got that Terrence Brooks guy, and it's a little more straight up competition at the top of the depth chart that I'm looking for, and Alabama's telling me there's nobody. These guys can look at depth charts and see different things than necessarily we do. But we would have thought that was Silas Bolden. So Texas is really good at recruiting. Sarkisian, when he gets these guys when they're not babies, but they're kind of young guys, young men, he really seems to do well with these guys once he gets on campus. He's already a dynamic recruiter, but it does seem like the older guys get, even more they connect with Sarkisian. And so I think that is one of the things that, I think Steve Sarkisian in a recruit off with Kalen DeBoer will take his chances.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Talking portal stuff. We're also going to get into, if you're a Texas fan, stay tuned. We're going to take a look at some numbers involving the 6 portal gets for Texas. 3 offense, 3 defense. We're going to do that. We got buy or sell coming up at 1 o'clock. If you loved my buy or sell for Catch yesterday about pro wrestling, I'm doubling down today in buy or sell. But right now, Catch was just talking about opportunity in the portal. I got an opportunity for you. Tomorrow, where I'm in this area and around Austin, it's going to be like 40 and 20 in the high and low. But you know what today is? Like 70. Hayes City Store head out to Driftwood, get yourself set for today. It's going to be a beautiful day out there at Hayes City Store. Go have one of those incredible beverages. Go have the awesome home run dip to start. Have a bourbon milkshake for dessert. Have the berries heaven. Go ahead and get that chicken fried steak that everybody's been talking about, or any of the other great items. I'm going with the chicken fried pork chop the next time I head out there. It is always a good time at Hayes City Store. FM 150 in Driftwood. Maybe you were shut in the house for a while, and maybe you even had to have some neighbors or family members or both in the house with you, and you just need to unwind. Hayes City Store is a great way to do it. There is your QR code. Shout out to Travis, Tamara, and the crew. Always a good time at Hayes City Store. Take advantage of those good weather opportunities we have every once in a while. January, February coming up, and obviously a little later on, weather's going to get great. All right, Catch, any other portal stuff before we hit these 6 guys and take a look at the numbers?
Just one. It's not really portal related, but this happened during the show in the last 45 minutes, and it does warrant our at least mention in it. Okay.
All right.
Do you know who Miami tight end Cam McCormick is?
Miami tight end Cam McCormick. No.
Well, there's no real reason for you to, other than to know that last season was his 8th in college football.
Dang. 8?
The NCAA has just granted him a 9th season of college football.
That's impressive. That is impressive. So that's like Carlos Huerta plus 3. That's like Justin McLemore plus 2. That's crazy.
Again, it's so. I guess he had season-ending injuries.
Sure, you got to have that.
In 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Dang.
So he just kept getting hurt.
Blake's telling us he's class of 16?
Yeah.
Wow.
Class of 2016.
Dude, he's the modern day McKelvey. He's the actual real McKelvey. Mustache, drinking coffee. The man's 38 years old.
The thing is, if he can work it out, if he can just get a few more years now, if he had a kid, he's close enough to almost being able to play with him.
He's going to go LeBron.
He's going to be LeBron and Rodney.
Football. That is awesome.
So, good luck to Cam McCormick. Stay healthy, my man.
Is it all at Miami?
What's that?
Is it all at Miami?
I don't know. I'll tell you what, I'll look it up.
Or has he transferred like 2 or 3 times?
He was at Oregon before Miami, I believe.
Okay.
He had 4 season-ending injuries and then a COVID season.
Man, good God, that's a tough story. He looks at Michael Penix and thinks, "Oh, that guy had it easy." That guy's nothing.
So now you know who Cam McCormick is. You didn't 3 minutes ago, but now you do. And you might actually remember that because 9 seasons.
9.
Wow.
That's incredible. I mean, that's best of luck to him. So that means after this year, can you imagine if he actually has like a productive year? And Miami is where Cam Ward ends up, right? Do I have that right? So let's say Cam Ward gets hot, makes him a tight end star, and then he goes to the combine at 32 years old or whatever, rolls into Indy.
42, Chad. Come on now.
That is fantastic. Best of luck to you, Cam.
Seriously, just for the record, last season he had 8 catches for 62 yards.
Wow. And for the record, Cam McCormick sounds like the most popular guy in school in the 80s movie that will learn a lesson at the end. Cam McCormick. Doesn't it? That sounds like that guy.
So wasn't he friends with Ferris Bueller?
Yeah. I don't remember what Cameron's last name was. That was Cameron, not a Cam.
Yes.
But yeah. You're right.
Could have been. All right, Chad. So let's transition. In fact, Blake, because we took a time out to talk about Cam McCormick, let us have the Portal Combat music one more time.
Yeah.
Round 1. Fight! Get over here!
I just want to know why everybody else isn't in new uniforms. Why is it just Walter Nolan? Why is he just torturing me? That's all I want to know.
Chad, my favorite part about that is you were about to say something, but as I was saying, hey, let's play Portal, I saw Blake's head start shaking. Yes, he was like, you just weren't going to talk before he hit the button. I saw his head shaking. Yes, I stopped talking. You were about to say a word, and it was like,
yes, that happens.
All right, so guys, one of the things that I did yesterday that we were going to have in the recruiting show, and then we just ran out of time, I was just curious. I got to be honest, this all stems from my own curiosity. The Longhorns have 6 portal commitments, and there are ranking services, right? Rivals 24/7 on 3. Each of them have their own portal rankings. We had Adam Gorney on during the recruiting show yesterday. If you missed that, go check it out. It was actually really interesting to hear a national guy talk about how they're just working through this new thing, this new animal that exists, and they've got to try to figure out how to tame it, figure out how to make it work from a ranking standpoint. It got me to wondering, what are the rankings for all of the guys that the Longhorns have signed? Generally speaking, everybody's pretty gassed up over who they've landed, but like on the national scale, who are they? So, Blake, if you can start us off with the wide receivers, since those are the 3, ultimately it breaks down into like 3 on offense, 3 on defense. Let's just start with Isaiah Bond. Okay. It's pretty good. Rivals has him at number 14 overall. On 3 has him at number 7 overall. 24/7 has him at number 4 overall, the number 1 receiver in the portal. On 3 has him as a number 3 wide receiver in the portal. Rivals has him at number 2. What's really interesting about Bond, I saw a tweet earlier today from 24/7 where it lists Isaiah Bond as one of the top 10 portal guys of all time so far. Now, it's not like all time even adds up to a decade, but you know, when we talk about the cherry on top of the portal Sunday, Chad, Bond's up there.
Well, yeah, no doubt. I was going to ask you, do you think, in terms of just pure talent, different positions, I know, for you, Isaiah Bond compared to, say, Walter Nolan, in terms of a get out of the portal, is Bond above Nolan in your mind?
No, because Nolan's thought of as kind of a surefire first-round draft pick for next year, and Bond is a guy that's viewed as someone who could get there, but still has work to do.
Gotcha.
But if we're talking about who impacts one, you know, I think Bond's got a chance to make a much bigger impact with Texas than Nolan does at Ole Miss. And part of that is, you know, it's hard to always quantify what an interior defense. We could do it this year with the Texas guys, right? I mean, we would just go, those are the best, arguably the two of the top 5 players on the entire team. Devondre Sweat wins the Outland Trophy. You know, we're talking about maybe best player on the team. I don't know that Walter Nolan has been that yet as a college football player, where it's like, oh, he's the best player on the Texas A&M team. He wasn't last year. I mean, you'd say that the linebacker was the best player on that A&M team last year. What's his name? Fill in the blanks for me.
Edrin Cooper.
Thank you. I know he's going to be a hot. I knew that. Again, sometimes I have too many names in my head. Maybe
there's a lot of them.
Like, I don't know. But Bond is up there.
Basic name. Yeah, I got it.
I think it's interesting to look at the next 2 guys because Texas loves Matthew Golden. And the portal rankings would suggest, you know, he's a really good get. Rivals at 49, on 3 at 56, 24/7 at 42. Everybody's kind of got him in the same ballpark, which would, to me, suggest the second tier after the top tier. I've kind of drawn a line. If I was thinking about who are going to be the super blue chips amongst the portal this year, because it hasn't been a large enough sample size for me to gauge it the way that I'm able to gauge it with high school football recruiting. But I think it's going to be guys who are in the top 25 overall in at least one of the three major rankings. So Golden's not quite there. We'll get to some other guys in a second who are in that territory. But Golden's in this next tier, anywhere between the 7th and 12th best wide receiver this year in the portal. It's a really good get. If I was, the players that are above Golden beyond Isaiah Bond are the Juice Wellses, the kid from Purdue.
You did it again, Deion Burks. The kid from Purdue.
I keep wanting to call him Drake. I keep wanting to call him Drake.
Drake Burks would be a cool name.
It would be.
Yeah.
There's, a few, but that's kind of it. And then you look at Silas Bolden, and there's some real discrepancies with regards to how high he's valued. Frankly, I think Rivals is just off on this. I think they've got to go reevaluate. I think Silas Bolden is a guy they haven't spent. I think they just put him on a place and said, here's where he goes. They've got him. There aren't 48 better wide receivers in college football than Silas Bolden. But I like Silas Bolden as much as I like Matthew Golden. So I think everybody's wrong about the ranking of Silas Bolden. But look, we'll have to see it on the field this year. Can he prove me right? If he doesn't have a big season, everybody will just say he was ranked correctly. He was just kind of a guy in the portal.
Yeah. And also, if people don't like my idea of the Fletch take on Bolden, you can just use it, Catch, as like a way to practice vocally. If you have like a vocal exercise coming up, you just Bolden, Bond. And just
I thought about this a little bit, Chad.
Yeah.
I don't think it is a Fletch character.
Okay.
I think it's a Spies Like Us character. Remember when they're in the tent?
Oh my God.
And they're introducing themselves to all of the doctors from around the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, Dr. Bolden. Like, I think it's more Spies Like Us, Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase, than it actually is just Chevy Chase and Fletch.
Call Bolden Golden Bond. Yes, there you go. Wow, Spies Like Us. I think I was 10 the last time I watched Spies Like Us all the way through. I think I've seen that movie maybe once all the way through, and then bits and pieces.
I've seen it 50 times in my life.
Really?
And one of the great all-time scenes for a young, it came out in 86, I think, so I was about 10 or 11, when Donna Dixon comes out of the snow tent and is like undoing her little snow uniform thing. She's in her underwear. It is one of the most incredible. I tell you what, if the internet had existed in the 80s, there would have been a lot of Donna Dixon Google searching.
See,
turning you just the safe off of the search.
Yeah, I appreciate you making it official for me now. You won't be happy with it, but I was mixing it up with something else. I've never seen Spies Like Us then.
Oh.
Because I'm a big Donna Dixon guy. I love Bosom Buddies and all that stuff. I've seen bits of that movie, but yeah, I've never seen it. I've never seen it all the way through, if I'm going to be perfectly honest.
I am going to send you, this is how good of a guy I am, okay?
Okay.
I'm sending to Blake, just to Blake, a picture of what I'm talking about in Spies Like Us. And I'm going to share it with you. And then you're going to watch Spies Like Us.
Then I'm going to check it out.
You're going to go, Donna Dixon.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I watch that movie?
Time-wise, I think I must have mixed it up with like a Trading Places or something. Because if it was 86, I turned 12 in 86. But obviously somehow I missed it. That's sad.
Okay, well, anyway, Blake, I'm not even looking at you because I know what you're probably thinking. See, he's shaking his head.
He's shaking his head, no.
I think it's a yes.
Can't happen.
Why can't it?
I tell you what, Blake can show that to me between House Divided and the Crap Bag today. Just to get
like the warm-blooded American men out there.
To get me motivated.
I think there is at least a 50% chance we get demonetized.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Got bra and underwear on. I can't help it if
it's transparent.
there's just some peakage.
Yeah.
You know what? Us Americans with our whole nipple thing, we got to get over this.
Well, and the other thing, just to be safe, let's go ahead and not show it now. Plus, everybody in the chat is already looking it up right now anyway. Like you just did. Trust me. They have all looked it up. They are all checking it out.
Well, here, then I'll send it to you because, Chad, I don't want you to be left out of this.
I appreciate it.
But I'm telling you, at 10 years old, when the sight of Donna Dixon coming out of her tent, I sent it to you in Slack.
Okay. All right.
Is it better? Chris Bennett's asking if it's better than Jamie Lee Curtis in Trading Places. Donna Dixon is hotter than Jamie Lee Curtis, but nothing beats Jamie Lee Curtis in Trading Places.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, that was that.
But I'm telling you, there's if you wanted to make the case that there has never been a hotter woman on the planet than Donna Dixon when she's in Spies Like Us, I'll hear the argument.
Okay. Definitely an impressive pick. That's Donna Dixon?
Yes.
Wow, that does not look like Donna Dixon to me. It's a nice picture. Definitely impressive.
I mean, look, all you got to do is like search around.
Yeah, okay. All right. There you go. Spies Like Us. Spies Like Us is Chevy and Dan Aykroyd, right? No, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, Chevy and Dan Aykroyd.
All right, so we'll remove. I don't even know how we got there.
I did it with the Bon Golden Bolden. I can't get off the Bon Golden Bolden.
Oh, that's right. I told you. I thought.
Right. I came up with what I thought was something brilliant. It landed flat, and then you've now corrected to a movie I've never seen, and now
I just can't believe you've never seen Spies Like Us.
Yeah, it's a shame.
All right, so now I have another, Blake, if you can throw up the other recruiting rankings. This is on the defensive side of the ball thus far. Trey Moore, I was having this conversation with Adam yesterday, and that Rivals has Trey Moore ranked at 59th. The thing is, if you go look at the prospects that are in front of him, it's a lot of really good players. I would have Trey Moore ranked higher. I like On3 and 24/7's ranking of Trey Moore more than Rivals. But I think Adam talked about it. How do you value how do you make your rankings? Are you going for guys who are going to be first round picks? Are you going for guys who've been difference makers at the major college level? I don't like Rivals ranking on this, but it's neither here nor there. Kendrick Blackshire is fascinating to me, Chad. Is this the best example that you can find quality in the portal everywhere? Because everybody's got him ranked. 24/7 has him ranked the highest at 254. By the way, I need to change that. It says wide receiver. Obviously, that should say linebacker.
Right. That's crazy. This is because Kendrick Blackshire is kind of what we would call he's kind of like the old school portal guy that maybe is transferring because he wasn't able to get all the opportunities at one school. Maybe he thinks he can find those opportunities at another school. I think that's why those numbers would speak. That's why those numbers are speaking to that in terms of where they think he falls in. But still, even if you believe any of those rankings, a top 100 guy that's available, maybe that's still a good thing. But it does make you think about just how much is Texas going to count on Blackshire to be an impact guy, because that may not be what he is.
Exactly. And then if we look at Andrew Makuba from Clemson, again, we're talking about now one of the best players in the portal at his position, ranked in the top 25 for both Rivals and 24/7, ranked much higher early on in the portal rankings, but then guys just keep coming out in the portal. And I think the Alabama deal has completely thrown off the portal rankings, because when would you ever expect that so many Alabama players, two of the top 4 guys in the current Rivals portal rankings weren't even in the portal 3 days ago. Now they are. But when you look at the overall rankings from all 3 of the major organizations, you get the sense Makuba, Moore, and Bond are the three big dogs. And then there's Golden, and then there's Bond, and then there's Bolden. Wait, then there's Golden and Bolden.
There you go. See?
And then Blackshire. But if they're able to close on Jabbar Muhammad, there's another consensus top 20 prospect from this year's portal rankings. And then if you can bring in the tight end, he's a consensus top 50 guy. So now suddenly you really are stocking up guys in volume that you wouldn't have guessed would be possible, I think, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, did you ever see Golden Bond with Peter Fonda back in the day? What a great movie. Anyway. All right.
Very tender.
Yeah. Oh, well acted. My
Catherine
parents were
Hepburn, I mean, if you haven't seen that one, you need to check it out.
Dude, my parents wouldn't let me watch it because they swore too much. There was too much swearing in that movie. Remember how much Henry Fonda swore in that movie?
I think that's my first impression of Henry Fonda.
Yeah,
I was
excited
reminded me of my great grandmother, and I loved him.
I was excited. I'm like, oh my God. My mom walks in. It's like, what are you watching? I'm like, I don't know. This old guy's swearing by the lake. I'm really excited about it. And she's like, no, we're not watching that. And and then to this day, I don't think I've ever seen it all the way through because she took me away from it.
Well, you're working your way through The Bear. I'm not going to add Bond, Golden, Bolden onto your list of movies.
Yeah, it will just confuse things. It will confuse things. I am 2 episodes into The Bear. Kids, catch is right. Great show. I'm going to get caught up pretty quickly, I think.
Hey, real quick before we move on to a little bit of Cowboys and then buy or sell. Gary, I've heard that should he enter the portal, which has not happened yet, Texas would almost certainly have an interest. We're just waiting to see. Like Arizona had 9 guys enter the portal yesterday. Will there be more? Like, I don't know. I'm not on top of that Arizona scene. I know he was at a basketball game last night and they gave him a standing ovation, but I'm guessing Evan Stewart probably went to a basketball game a time or two and they probably clapped for him and told him to stay. And then guys are going to do what guys are going to do. So no real final word. Stay tuned.
All right, there you go. A lot of portal stuff out there. We got buy or sell coming up at 1. And my God, it's 12:58, Catch. I'm not sure if we have any time to talk Dallas Cowboys. We may need to just move on to something else. But it was official yesterday. Jerry's going to stay with Mike McCarthy 1 more year. If nothing is done with either guy, it'll be McCarthy's last year on his deal and Dak Prescott's last year on his deal in 2024. How about them Cowboys?
It's very Jason Garrett-ish of Jerry that in the end, and I told you this yesterday when we were doing the Outsiders.
I can't believe this number.
The Cowboys haven't fired a head coach since 2002. That if you look at the coaches in between 2002, I guess they haven't fired a coach since Campo or Gailey. Like, I don't know. It bleeds. Those years.
It's one of those probably.
They hurt my head. But they bring in Parcells. He kind of just retired. They bring in Garrett didn't have his contract. Oh, and then Wade Phillips was fired in the middle of the season. So they have fired a coach, but they haven't fired a coach at the end of the season since 2002. Phillips was a firing in the middle of the year, and then they just let Jason Garrett's deal run out and then didn't re-sign him.
There it is. There it is. And by the way, Catch, let me explain real quick to people how you can take the same information and look at it 2 different ways. There's a group of people saying to Jerry, he just won 12 games 3 years in a row and then didn't get to the championship game. That's never happened before, ever. No one's ever done it. You got to make a move. Jerry responds with, no, you don't understand. He's the winningest regular season coach in Cowboys history over 3 seasons. He's the winningest in history. How can I get rid of him?
I don't hate. The reality is they could hire Belichick and it wasn't going to make a difference. So what difference does it really make? It's all window dressing.
Tom G. Dallas looking for Arch. There it is.
Oh, that made me mini snort there. I don't know. I'm becoming even more apathetic towards it. Mike McCarthy's not terrible. I know how that ends. It's almost like you could even give me somebody worse, but at least at that point, I have questions about like, well, how does it end? Even though I know how it will end, it ends the same way: dissatisfaction.
Yep.
You buy or sell. I still am not ready to fully talk Cowboys.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you. I understand. All right, you want to go first or second today?
I'll go first today. I think you may like your questions
All right.
more than I do. I don't love my questions today, although I think they're pretty good. Buy or sell number one. In the future, if the Aggies bring in 25, I said 2025, but it should just be if the Aggies are bringing in 25 incoming recruits or players, you hope at least half of the 25 come from the portal moving forward.
I would actually prefer the 2025 incoming recruits and players. If we could do that, that would be excellent. Okay, if they bring 25 recruits players, you hope at least half come from the portal.
Is that too many for you?
Half of 3, so you were talking about 12. So you're saying each year moving forward, not just now. This isn't about now, moving forward every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fundamentally speaking.
Yeah, I'll sell at that 12.5 number. That feels a little heavy. So I'll sell that. It probably needs to be some from the portal every year, but to me, if it's 12 to 13 every year, that might be a little too much.
When you realize that all those extra guys you're giving scholarships to from high school are going to the portal in a year or two, and you just wasted your time. Historically, in a few years, you may change your mind. Yeah. Buy or sell number two. It's too early to make any real judgments on Rodney Terry.
It's too early to make any real judgments. I guess it's a buy. I mean, I guess the word real is key there. You can make judgments all over the place. Maybe in terms of how you mean that. Yeah, I'll buy. But I mean, it's on the way. It's at some point. It's got to be discussed. There's a lot happening. The loss of Beard plus the loss of those two guys that end up in the pros. I think those it's all coming together now for Texas fans. And like you said earlier, they did kind of what felt like the good, right thing to do, but it was based off of a lightning in a bottle run. It wasn't based on badass consistency, and that's kind of the trap now that Texas is in.
Buy or sell number three, Mike McCarthy will win 11-ish games-ish, so not exactly, in 2024, and the season will end exactly the same as this one with serial disappointment.
Yeah, that's probably a buy. Probably a buy. Details not being taken care of, kind of a team be what they're going to be. Is it going to be Quinn again or not? I don't know. Yeah, but that's about it. Every year I go in thinking 10 to 12, around 11 is usually where I land. They're in a division that's gettable, especially with what just happened to the Eagles. Who knows what they're like, but they're kind of in a trap too. They're in a trap that the Houston Texans used to live in. Good enough to win your division, not good enough to do much else.
Buy or sell number four, the NFL playoff game that you care the least about this weekend is San Francisco and Green Bay.
Buy. So much so that while it's occurring, I'll be watching Mean Girls.
Oh, wow.
There you go. I'll record it. I'll come back and maybe skim through it, but yeah.
I had no idea that was happening. It's not like I had a tease on that. Nope. I love that you had such an emphatic answer. Like, yep, already made that decision.
We were trying to figure out when to go see this movie because my daughter wants to see it. My wife wants to see it. One of her friends wants to see it. And I started doing the math in my head. I said, you know what? Saturday night's the night because a team I don't care about is playing a team I don't care about. And if I can find something else to do, let's do that. So that's how
why be miserable?
Exactly.
All right. And finally, buy or sell number five. You think an Oklahoma lawmaker's quest to end the threat in furries, he's got a piece of legislation that he's entering in this week, He wants to end the threat of furries in school by turning the kids that dress up as furries over to animal control if the parents can't pick them up. You think that sounds perfectly normal? It's a great idea.
Bye, especially for Oklahoma. That really sounds like it fits together. But in some cases, Catch, both in parenting and in other situations, and teaching is one of those, sometimes you do have to get to the, well, if you're going to make that argument, we might have to make that argument. Are you good with that? Because
you can act like a dog all you want to, but if you do it at school, you might end up caged at the pound like one.
If you're telling me you're a golden retriever, guess what I might have to treat you like? A golden retriever. And that dude's walking in with a taser. Everybody ready to go? Are we good? You good?
We can't get food for poor kids, but, thank God that the furry problem is under control in the state of Oklahoma. Okay, those are my 5.
Oh, my God. Furries in Oklahoma. I was not expecting that.
Well, I know you weren't. That's why I brought it to you.
All right, Catch, here we go. Buy or sell. Number 1, you think Texas gets Amari Niblack?
Buy. I seem to be getting everybody. Why stop at Niblack? He's going to visit. I think they'll work it out. And I think one of the things that Texas will be able to sell to that guy is that there's definitely a place on the depth chart right at the top for him to come in and make a difference. Yeah, I think they're going to get Niblack.
All right, buy or sell number 2. Catch, it's not your first day. You're not mad at Jerry for keeping McCarthy.
Buy. That I wouldn't say mad. I'm kind of disappointed because I think there's better than McCarthy on the streets that they could hire, but there's also worse. I think he's a perfectly okay and fine NFL head coach. I think he's done a good job with the Cowboys. By the highest standards possible, he's not succeeding. But I've seen worse. I lived through the Jason Garrett years. Yeah. And honestly, that was like living through 500 Charlie Strong years. I can almost do anything if it's not that.
Yeah. Here's the perspective I would tell a younger Cowboys fan. If he didn't fire coaches that went 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, or 5-11, 5-11, 5-11, what makes you think he's going to fire 12-5, 12-5, 12-5? That's, I think, maybe the best logic to explain what Jerry just did.
I told you I didn't yell or scream during the game other than one time. Yeah. I'm going to do it now. Like, it's slightly disappointing, but at the end of the day, I told you if they hired Belichick, it wouldn't work. They wouldn't win the Super Bowl. So what are we talking about?
Yeah. You know who else didn't yell during the game? McCarthy or Dak, interestingly enough. Kind of the problem. Buy or sell.
Now you're just trying to get me mad. Don't do that.
It's okay. I know you get mad. I'm still waiting for them to get mad. Buy or sell number 3, Catch. A&M in the portal. 22 gets, including Des Ricks. You'll give Elko a B+.
Sell. Honestly, I haven't looked over what they've done well enough to give Elko any kind of a grade.
Fair enough.
I just, it'd be an empty answer. So I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll circle back on this tomorrow. Okay. And I'll answer this will be a bonus question for tomorrow. Let me actually take a look at it and see what I think. I'd just be talking out of my ass if I gave a grade.
Fair enough. Buy or sell number 4. Let's really test what you saw last night. Catch, you'd rather watch an entire Texas basketball game than Napoleon Dynamite.
Sell.
Wow. Whew.
Now, I wouldn't want to watch, Texas got 15 games left.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to watch Napoleon Dynamite 15 times.
True.
But if you're telling me, Catch, you can watch Napoleon Dynamite over the next Texas basketball game against Baylor.
That's correct.
I would say yes. Give me Napoleon Dynamite. I haven't seen Napoleon Dynamite in, a decade plus.
Yeah,
it was a movie that my wife Heather liked to watch it for a while. It wasn't one of her favorite movies of all time, but I feel like I can remember it being on at one point. I'd watch it once. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. And finally, Catch, buy or sell number 5, back to yesterday, wrestling fan time machine. We're redoing. You'd rather go back and see Kaufman versus Lawler in Memphis than Hogan versus Andre WrestleMania 3.
Sell.
Okay. Just
because the WrestleMania 3, that was the one in Detroit, right?
That's correct. Because then you'd get to see the record crowd.
Exactly. There's a lot to that. It is in a lot of ways, in my memory, it's the biggest. It's not my favorite WrestleMania of all time, but in my heart and in my brain, it's the one that I remember as the biggest.
Yeah, and remember, you don't get all day. You just get match or match. You don't get Alice Cooper and Jake the Snake. You don't get Randy and Ricky. You just get Hogan and Andre. This is match for match, not event for event. I'm going to zap you in and zap you back out when the match is done.
I'm still going to buy. When I was a kid, I can remember I lived in Waco when WrestleMania 3 took place.
You mean you're still selling? Still selling. Going Hogan Andre.
Yeah, I'm going Hogan Andre. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
I'm going Hogan Andre because when that match happened, I can remember when my mom and I lived in an apartment in Waco, and there was a number that the Waco Tribune-Herald put in the newspaper that you could call to get like real-time wrestling results as they happened. And I can remember like on that date calling and getting the results after the match happened of who won the matches. And so I can remember so wanting to know and see the Hogan Andre match that I was calling a Waco Tribune number to get the result. Yeah, the little kid in me would love to see that live.
Big time match, no doubt about it. And no truth to the rumor that it was Suzanne Halliburton answering those phone calls. That's one for you old
Waco
folks.
Tribune.
Waco Tribune, different phone numbers, totally different phone numbers. All right, Catch, before we wrap it up, let's see if we can make them a little bit hungry with prime shrimp. There's an Orange Bloods code and everything.
Well, the bottom line is it's the big 3. Tastes great, less filling. No, that was a beer. Tastes great, easy on the wallet, and easy on the getting ready and prepared for. I made dinner last night for the kids. We didn't have prime shrimp, but I cooked like a 3-course meal, Chad. But it took me like an hour. And it was a hell of a lot more expensive than if I just had some prime shrimp, got it prepared in 10 minutes, and then saved on the overall cost because I bought more than 3. I would have bought 6 or 9 or something like that. Prime Shrimp's just the best. Use that QR code or go to the website, primeshrimp.com. Get your 30% off by using a promo code OrangeBloods30 every time you buy more than 6 packages of the prime shrimp. And each package is about $10. It's a meal, and it's easy to prepare. It's fantastic for the price point. And I did. I thought last night to myself, you know what? I could have just done prime shrimp, saved myself some time, had a better meal. No offense to my own cooking. There we go.
I'm sure none will be taken. All right, before we get out of here, Catch, a lot on the portal today. Obviously, we talked a little Texas basketball at the front end of it. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, I'm good. I'm looking. I've been checking because we're still in that anything could happen in the portal. So I'm just checking to make sure that nothing new has happened in the portal today. And so far, I can't find anything in the last 30 minutes that we absolutely need to report.
I can give you something in the last 3 minutes. Not huge breaking news, but Alabama signee Jameer Grimsley entered the portal, cornerback, top 250 guy in the last recruiting class.
Wow.
I just saw that. Yeah, that just happened. So Alabama loses another one, Chad.
Man, so this is a guy from a recruiting loss from the 24 class.
Correct.
Wow.
One of these guys that he basically pulled the DeAndre Robinson.
So he had signed, right? He had signed, but gets out of the LOI.
Yes.
Gotcha. Wow. So it continues with Alabama, with
Washington.
Washington.
Me, Chad, for thinking that we could have went through that last hour of the show and Alabama just wouldn't suffer another, shot to the soul.
Well, here's good news for you. If you're a Texas football fan and you want to keep up with the very, very latest of everything, Thursdays have become even bigger for you now because Thursday afternoons at 4, it is the Modcast. That's right. It's back twice a week now. So today at 4, you'll get the Modcast. Tonight, if it's a Thursday night at orangebloods.com, that means it's War Room night. So every little piece of news, all the nuggets of info you're going to want, that's on orangebloods.com in the War Room. Get signed up today. And if you like, with Orange Bloods Live, make sure you get those notifications, like, subscribe. If you have not memorized what's on your screen right now, we get it. It's hard to memorize stuff sometimes. I can't memorize these lines. Go ahead and just sign up for those notifications. It's free, and they will let you know when a show is coming up. So Modcast coming up at 4, this afternoon at 2. It is the crap bag. We will process more Cowboys feelings. Cowboys fans, I want your feelings in 5 words or less today in the Specs chat once we get to the crap bag. Plus, we'll get into all kinds of stuff. Some NFL playoff updates. One of the big teams to watch. Getting a couple players healthy could be big. And we'll talk about the latest going on in Longhorn land as well. Shout out to Blake, the super producer, for all his great work. Shout out to Specs for sponsoring the chat. Blake, let's give him 15 seconds of Specs. Remember, if you need to get stocked up, weather might be better for you today like it is for me. Get out to Specs. Here you go.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
All righty, that'll wrap it up for today at Thursday. House Divided. Keep it on Orange Bloods Live. And again, get those notifications. Thanks to everybody for helping us get up to 18,400 subscribers. Adding more every day, and you are the reason. We do appreciate it. Have a good Thursday until high noon tomorrow on a Friday. We are House Divided. See ya.